All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the party. Today is Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. This is episode 685 of Simply Cyber's Daily Cyber Threat Brief podcast. I am your host, Dr. Gerald Auger. And over the next hour or so, me, you, Alpha Sierra, Marcus Kyler of the Yeet Crew, who also I had the opportunity to hang out with the other day, Inda Halim, DJ Manny, Tech Ricky, coming to the class next week. FedEx, also in the class next week. Laura Flores, also in the class next week. Mods like Eric Taylor, Jenny Housley, Kimberly Can Fix It. So many like Yak and Vet, ZMIF, ADHD, Arts and Entertainment. Guys, we're all going to be shredding the top cybersecurity news stories of the day. And I'll be giving my expert opinion and analysis on each of those stories on what it means to you as a practitioner. So how can you use this information to drive cyber risk reduction for your business stakeholders? Or if you're looking to break in the industry, there's plenty of room in here for you. Believe me when I tell you, each episode of the Daily Cyber Threat Brief delivers value. It's a great answer to a question in any job interview. How do you stay current on the industry? The networking is phenomenal. Say hi to the friends in here. And you're going to get access to resources, concept, knowledge, etc., that you may not get in a textbook or, a try hack me room or something like that. So it really is beneficial and enriching. So get in here. We're all about good times. I want you to know that I don't prep or research any of the stories that we're about to go over because I want to make this legitimate and authentic as far as like, what do we see? What are we doing? It's like we're having coffee at the water cooler before the start of our shift. Now, before we get into it, let me give a shout out and love to the stream sponsors, those who enable me to pour a pot of coffee down my gullet every morning and rage on the top cyber news stories of the day, starting with my good friend, fellow mod, and longtime sponsor, Barricade Cyber Solutions. Listen, Barricade Cyber Solutions is dedicated to helping businesses from cyber attacks and recover from the damage done. Cyber attacks, they suck. They cause massive issues for businesses. They send hardworking business owners in turmoil. But guess what, guys? You know what? Barricade Cyber Solutions, they know how to mitigate the damage done by cyber incidents. They know how to yeet threat actors out the environment. They know how to catch them outside. How about that?
Catch me outside. How about that?
That's right. Barricade Cyber. Check them out at barricadecyber.com and links in the description below. Essentially, just think of them as a digital firefighter. So if your business is on fire because cyber threat actors are all up in your shorts, Barricade Cyber Solutions knows how to hook them up and get them out of there in a hot minute. Also want to say shout out and love to Delete Me. Guys, Delete Me. Many of you know that I have been using Delete Me, to pretty good efficacy. I'm a person that exists publicly, right? I made the decision to have a daily live stream podcast to the internet. So I share my opinions. I share my hot takes. Not everybody agrees with them. And unfortunately, because of that, I have to be hyper aware of my safety and security, especially because it's easy to find personal information about me and about you online. The data is literally just hanging out there, and it could lead to doxing, phishing scams, etc. I recently found a solution. The service is called Delete Me. Delete Me basically scrubs your information from the largest people search databases in the world. When you sign up, you tell Delete Me what you want deleted. Maybe just your email address, maybe just your personal home address. I said delete everything. I dare you to try to erase me from the internet. Every month I get a personalized report telling me what they deleted, which is really nice. It's basically outsourcing my online privacy. So take control. Take control of your data. Keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me now at the special discount for Simply Cyber listeners. I know many of you have taken advantage of it. If you have thoughts about Delete Me, drop them in chat. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/simplycyber and use promo code simplycyber at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/simplycyber. Enter code simplycyber at checkout. Say it with me, joindeleteme.com/simplycyber. Thank you, Delete Me. Guys, every single episode of the Daily Cyber Threat Brief is worth half a CPE, so don't be shy. Don't be shy. Say what's up in chat, grab a screenshot, and file it away in a little folder on your desktop. Easiest way to do it, right? Use the KISS method, as Eric Taylor likes to say. And once a year, count how many screenshots you have, divide by 2. That's the number of CPEs you have. It's an hour-long show, but we do a little jaw jack and a little mid-roll stuff. So if you say half a CPE, 30 minutes, there's zero question that you are going to be able to defend that position. All right, guys. Also, if you're not sure what to say, drop a hashtag Team SC in chat. I'm a hashtag Team SC. You're a hashtag Team SC. We got a hashtag Team SCs all over the place. It is Tuesday, so it's Tidbits Tuesday. I will be sharing a little personal something about me at the mid-roll. See if we vibe on it, whatever it is. It's always all about good times. Finally, I want you to know before we dig into the stories, before I slug this coffee, if today is your first episode of the Daily Cyber Threat Brief, drop a hashtag first timer in chat. Hashtag first timer in chat. We have a special sound effect for you. We have a special emote for you, first timers. So don't be shy. Say hello. And if you see someone saying hello, first timer in chat, please welcome them if you would. What's up, everybody? Looking good. We're fully back up and running. If you stayed through the full weekend of DEF CON, I hope you're back at home, safe traveling, back at the helm, if you will. All about good times. All right. I love it. We've got Antisyphon also as a stream sponsor, but more about them at the mid-roll. I always do appreciate a good Antisyphon reference. All right. So, the special sound for Old Timer Flakinator. I got a sound effect for you. Oh, where's my ibuprofen? Where's my mid-afternoon ibuprofen? Reaper, first timer. Welcome to the party, pal. I'm glad that Simply Cyber community, myself, all the people here are inspiring you to push forward. Welcome to the party, pal. Welcome to the party, pal. Michaela, hashtag first timer. Welcome to the party, pal. Welcome to the party, pal. Good morning. Justin Gold's in the house. All right, guys, do me a favor. What's up, Larry? Do me a favor. Everybody sit back, relax, and let's let the cool sounds of the hot news wash over us all in an awesome wave. I will see you all at the mid-roll. You know, it's like really quick before we dig in. Like, I've had a full pot of coffee. I got up at 6 this morning, taking care of a lot of stuff. You'd think that my engine would be going a lot faster by now, but I got a little on me. All right, sit back, relax. Let's go. Let's go.
From the CISO series, it's cybersecurity headlines.
These are the cybersecurity headlines for Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. I'm Lauren Verno. U.S. operation of laptop farm for North Korea shut down. Tennessee resident Matthew Isaac Newt has been arrested for allegedly running a laptop farm to help North Korean IT workers secure remote jobs with American companies. Now, here's how the scheme worked. Newt would steal the identities of U.S. citizens and pose as a U.S.-based IT professional. Now, once hired, the company would send the work laptop to Newt's home, which he then gave the North Koreans access to, allowing them to log in remotely. If convicted, Newt could face up to 20 years in prison, including a mandatory minimum of 2 years for aggravated identity theft.
All right. So interesting. It's funny that, okay, so there's a lot going on here. Dude, North Korea, you know, I'll give them an A for effort, like very persistent, very deliberate. So it's so funny too, because it's like, oh, you've got technical controls for geofencing. Hold my beer. Like, we'll just convert U.S. citizens to do this. All right, so check it out. Yeah, what a donkeys, right? Priceless pancake.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb, for real.
Okay, so a couple things here. One, you know, like we just saw this with KnowBe4 recently. Where there was like, you know, they hired a North Korean and caught it really quickly. So this Tennessee guy was running a laptop farm where basically he would just get a bunch of jobs committing identity theft and would be the point person to have everyone from North Korea come in. Now, this is really interesting because, first of all, they said he's going to go to jail for identity theft, which is hilarious because it's more like, I don't know if you would consider this treason because, I mean, if he was doing it for like, I don't know, like let's say like, UK citizens, right? Would it be seen the same way, right? Probably not. He would commit all these identity thefts. There's so much wrong with this. Like, first of all, you're going to be having ISPs with all the North Korean network traffic coming into this one guy's house. Secondly, if he is committing identity theft, you would see that there's like a common thread going through all of this as far as like, see, the thing I'm thinking really quickly, like, since he's doing identity theft, it's not like he has like 15 W-2s coming into his house. But this is dumb. We've seen these like mobile phone farms as well in order to get around basically technical controls to prevent people from like having multiple devices or one device running multiple clients and stuff like that. Let's see what horrible IT security. I agree. Here's the thing. They say, I know people are saying like remoting in. I could see, technically, if you wanted to get clever with this, the guy could have set up a VPN on his home network. The North Koreans remote into the VPN, then they're on the local network, and then they, I guess, remote into the laptop. So then you're allowing, I'm just playing this forward here, you're allowing the Tennessee man to install his own software technically, right, on the device in order to, remote in, like I'm seeing in Mod Chat, RDP or Quick Assist. I've seen environments where I've been, responsible for, where the engineers like figured out Google has some type of remote access solution. So, and they were able to install it in my environment. I found it and, we got it sorted out. But there's a lot of ways to do remoting in. I want to think like that. Here's my thing. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's my thing with this. North Korea is doing a couple different things. One, they're like getting a job and then exploiting that access in order to steal intellectual property and all these other things. But there's an entire other faction of North Korea that is getting IT jobs and like literally working, doing the work, and then sending their paycheck back to, the homeland, right? Or mother North Korea, whatever you want to call it. So I've seen both of those stories. So it's not just, crazy espionage level stuff going on. Sometimes like literally they're using it as a way to fund the North Korean regime. Because remember, North Korea, they have like economic sanctions. They have economic sanctions. Like I have, bad decisions from college, right? Like they have them for days. So in order to like fund their regime, they could do things like Lazarus Group, where they steal all sorts of crypto. And by the way, that's like one of their biggest GDP imports is like financial crime. But they're also doing this other kind of theft thing. This Tennessee guy, Hot Mess Express. I will say two things. One, good job, law enforcement. Secondly, I would think, that this technique is not fairly easy, but easier to detect, right? If you see traffic coming in from North Korea all to like one point, you might want to go look at that point, right? So there's that. I would say really quickly, now that we've seen KnowBe4 get compromised, we see this right here as far as a laptop farm. If you are an information security professional in your organization, I would begin to evaluate what it looks like when you send tech out to remote workforce, right? Like, what are you securing it? Are you requiring any type of lockdown? Do you prevent installation of software on the endpoints. You know, like I see in mod chat, we're talking about all sorts of different things about allowing remote access. Maybe like getting on the blue side of things, do you catch any kind of telemetry, whether it's like Sysmon or anything from the endpoint as far as network connections, as far as telemetry on what applications are running, like all the things. But to me, this isn't like guaranteed, right? Like not definitely going to happen, but certainly worth threat hunting in your environment, right? Like this North Korean attack thing is elevated where we're seeing it now every couple weeks. To me, it's a fun threat hunting thing too, because you're like looking for North Koreans, like, looking for, I guess I would call them like first world cyber power threat actors in your environment. So that's certainly worth looking for. Jeremy Williams with the squad membership, 20 months. Thanks for the blue badge. Jerry, I hope Vegas was fun. It was Jeremy Williams. Definitely burning the candle at both ends. So DJ B6 says, what are you going to threat hunt? Okay, so here's what I'm thinking, right? Like, look in your environment. Like, when you ship out a new machine, it seems like that they are jumping on this right away, whether it's installing, whatever tech, whatever software. So look for new hires instantly installing weird stuff. Look for new hires, having weird network connections. I would assume if someone's remoting into your box, okay, so let's play it out. If they remote in directly to the box, right, there would be some telemetry there. If they remote in VPN to the LAN and then remote into the box, kind of like a jump box, if you will, I suppose you might not see network telemetry, but still, wouldn't the machine be connecting back over remote to some type of North Korean thing at some point if they're coming from North Korea? I just think you'd be able to see that, right? As far as network traffic goes. BSEC saying it's a machine in the USA with company creds. Yeah, I know, but they're remoting in from North Korea, right? Am I misunderstanding the story? Let me look. We can come back. Installing unauthorized software on the laptops. Okay, so you could detect that. Allowing North Koreans to remotely log in from locations in China. Okay, so if you see China IPs all up in your thing, this is a second major arrest. I just think that there's an ability here to look around, right? This isn't like a firmware rootkit type thing, right? All right, let's keep going. Me and BSEC can jaw jack on this at the end of the show here.
Over 100 Ukrainian government computers compromised. Attackers impersonating Ukraine's security service have...
Right. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. So, okay. So I'm sorry. Now we're having like a mod chat thing. So we're talking in mod chat here. BSEC saying that users shouldn't be installed to install software or have remote sessions. That's my point. Like if you have crap controls where you can't stop that from happening and it's an administrative control where you have them sign a piece of paper that says they won't do it. This Tennessee guy is getting paid straight cash homie, from North Korea to allow that. So obviously a technical control would be required, which is why I'm saying, in my opinion, like just as a good practice, it's an opportunity to go threat hunting because there's clearly an uptick in activity.
Compromise over 100 government systems using Anon VNC malware. Now that's according to the country's emergency response team. These attacks began in mid-July and were executed via malicious spam emails containing links to a fake documents.zip file, which instead downloaded a Windows installer MSI file from a compromised site. The malware allowed the threat group to covertly access and control the compromised systems.
Okay, so it looks like a bunch of government sites or government laptops got compromised through social engineering. All right. An email pushing a hyperlink to a documents.zip archive. Clever naming. So then it installs a window installer from gbshost.net. I want to not accept content from that. Here we go. Got a little graphic. Hold on, let me look at this graphic really quickly. Yeah, dude. Okay. I mean, this is basically, again, in 2024, phishing emails work hyper effectively. This is why threat actors aren't going to get away from it, right? It lands in your inbox. Here's a link to a zip file. Download it. You download it, and it runs an installer. If you run a zip file and it runs an installer, like you get the installer pop-up from MSI, right? Like, alarm bells should be ringing, right? You should educate. I mean, this is one of those things where, like, you want to educate your end users because you want them to tell you that this is happening, right? Not good. So basically, the end goal here is that they can remote into your box. They could have done anything, right? I mean, once you allow running of an application on the box, I mean, you could install, info stealers, persistence mechanisms, pull down second stage payloads, all the things. But they're installing a VNC client to allow remote access. Once you remote in, obviously you can do things like you're locally there. Here's my thing, dude. Phishing in 2024, we should do better than this, right? So educate your end users. If you can get an email security gateway, Exchange Online Protection's pretty good, right? EDR on your endpoints, even if it's a budget-friendly anti-malware solution, just give yourself a fighting chance. These are government. Here's my thing too. These are is this Ukrainian? It was pretending to be Ukrainian Secret Service, right? Or security services. So that sucks. They must have been pretty good fishes to be believable. Another thing, guys, I haven't mentioned this in a while, but it's like such a basic one. It's pretty easy to configure emails that, like basically, well, it's pretty easy to configure emails to have like a header that says like this email came from out of your organization. Be careful. You see it all the time, right? It's usually like yellow highlighter, red font. Be mindful this is coming out of your organization. That wouldn't have stopped this particular attack, but it is worth mentioning because it is a nice little control. You set it once. It's easy to get around. If people spoof inside email addresses, the header will still get applied because it's being processed, inbound, not, internal to the network and pushed around. So anyways, I know that's fairly easy to do, at least on, what is it? I've seen it easy on the, like the Cisco mail gateway. I forget what that's called. That was a couple jobs ago. Exchange Online is fairly easy to configure as well. This particular email they show in the screenshot does not show that, but all the things that you have at your disposal, you should absolutely be taking advantage of. Unfortunately, 100 computers basically said, hey, we're Ukrainian like IT basically install this thing. And people are like, yep, dude, Russia and Ukraine have been in this war for like 2 years. You would think anything that like gets sent to you that says install this, you would be a little hypersensitive about. But there you go.
Trump's campaign says they were hacked. Former President Donald Trump's presidential campaign claims its emails were hacked a day after Microsoft issued a report about foreign agents attempting to interfere with the 2024 elections, which we first reported on Monday. The campaign suggests that Iranian actors were behind the hack with the intention of stealing and releasing sensitive internal documents, though no specific evidence has been provided to support these claims. Iran has denied any involvement when questioned about the attack by the United Nations. Multiple U.S. government agencies have stated they take these kinds of reports very seriously, but have not provided any other details or insight.
All right, couple things. One, this isn't a political show, so I'm not going to comment on this. But having a major political candidate suffer a data breach is not a good look for them. You would think that any major presidential candidate's campaign would have cybersecurity professionals working on it to help secure them. But guys, I got to tell you, Linus Tech Tips, for example, very, very senior IT practitioner, huge, YouTube social media presence. He got compromised the other day, his Twitter account, right? So, it can happen to anyone, right? It's cyber resiliency, not cybersecurity. I don't know why that like everybody's been saying it was Iran. Microsoft came out and claimed it, although Iran's saying they didn't do anything. Guys, here's the playbook, right? If you're a cyber threat actor, you're not going to come out and be like, well, I did it. You know what I mean? Because all you're doing is putting the eye of Sauron on yourself. That you could be like, ooh, like maybe it was us. Like you could be like that and be kind of aloof, but at the end of the day, you're not going to say we did it because you have plausible deniability. You can be like, it wasn't us, even though it's clear. If Microsoft's attributed it to you, there's pretty high confidence that it was you. Iran's disrupting stuff, allegedly. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, this is a cyber story in the sense that, like, it was a cyber compromise, but there's not anything really under the surface. Emails are compromised. Okay. Be careful. I would say it's completely unrealistic when we talk about data governance and like not having extra data that isn't needed anymore. Basically, like archiving old data, deleting old data. Like no one's going back and like clearing emails, right? We get hundreds of emails a day. I personally would probably horrify people. Hold on 1 second. Might as well horrify people. If you look at how many unread emails I have, 155,000. I can't even read my emails. Look, I got 2 different email clients. I got Outlook for a couple different things, 411. I've got Google for other things, 155,000 unread emails. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
So just be mindful that, like, literally, at least in my opinion, there's probably people who are horrified out there right now watching this. In my opinion, data governance around emails isn't really a thing. Now, I would say when someone leaves the company, you could archive off their email if you wanted to. So, yeah, whatever. We'll see how this impacts. I mean, this, again, not a political show. Email leaks in 2016 really dismantled Hillary Clinton's campaign. Donald Trump's emails or campaign's emails compromised. We'll see what's going on as far as how this impacts the election, if you will.
200,000 affected in Arizona data breach. A data breach affecting hundreds of thousands at an Arizona tech school exposed nearly 50 types of personal information. The compromised data range from health information, including prescription numbers and mental or physical conditions, to financial details such as account and routing numbers. The attack, claimed by the Lockbit ransomware gang, affected over 200,000 current and former students, staff, and parents in the January incident.
All right, so Lockbit ransomware group claiming responsibility, but this is January 19th. Remember, Lockbit has been...
Regulators! Mount up. It was a...
Lockbit has been kind of hobbled, if you will. I'm under the impression that Lockbit has been absolutely kneecapped. Although I will tell you at Black Hat, I was talking to Cisco Talos threat researchers, and they told me that Lockbit continues to be effective and scary. So, there is that to be said. Higher education, guys, if you work in higher ed, you're probably pouring a little bit out right now because you know how rough higher ed is. In my opinion, higher ed is like on the same level as like state and local municipalities. Here's the deal. In higher ed, especially research schools, but in higher ed, it's all about like knowledge share and look what I got and here, have access to these resources. On top of that, the IT people are often understaffed, under-resourced, underfunded. I don't understand, honestly, how in the United States, it costs like $200,000 for an education by like all the students, yet somehow the faculty are underpaid, the resources are trash. Like, where's the money going? That's always something I've always wondered.
Straight cash, homie.
Okay, so like, not trying to digress or dive deep on this, but there is a unfortunate potential for this data to get leaked just because they have crap for cybersecurity oftentimes. Now, even if you used a service like Delete Me, right, or some service to clean your own personal information, even if you were hypersensitive about what you put out on the interwebs, if you went to this school, you'd have to fill out an application. You'd have to give them your personal information. And unfortunately, because of their cyber practices, that information would be compromised. Now, I don't know if Lockbit is, they're sending the information out to the 208,000 impacted students and staff. But I don't know if Lockbit released. They threatened to publish the files, but I don't know if they actually did or not. You can see here, they didn't actually discover any publication of the data itself, but essentially they're getting in front of it by notifying people and letting them know. It's pretty sucks though, right? Social Security, driver's license, home address, like all the things that you would need in order to like file fake fraudulent taxes. I had the distinguished opportunity to have some jerk attempt to file taxes for me last year. Joke was on them, though. I ended up owing several thousands of dollars, so I was hoping the threat actor would pay my taxes. They did not. But unfortunately, it does make filing taxes going forward a pain in the rear. We have a typo on the headline, by the way, missing an E. All right. So long story short, Lockbit continuing to dig out from their compromises. Higher ed has trash oftentimes for cybersecurity, and you can expect if you have your information compromised, which most of us have, right? Who doesn't have 3 or 4 different identity theft protections concurrently running at the same time? Just be mindful, all right?
Thanks to today's episode sponsor, ThreatLocker. Do zero-day exploits and supply chain attacks keep you up at night? Worry no more. You can harden your security with ThreatLocker. ThreatLocker helps you take a proactive, default deny approach to cybersecurity and provides a full audit of every action, allowed or blocked, for risk management and compliance. Onboarding and operation are fully supported by their US-based support team. To learn more about how ThreatLocker can help your organization run efficiently and protected from ransomware, visit threatlocker.com. That's ThreatLocker.
All right, we're at the mid-roll. All right, guys. Hey, we're at the mid-roll. All you first-timers, we do this every day at the bottom of the hour. Kick it for a minute. Take a breath. Take a beat. I want to say shout out and thanks to all of you. 420 of you getting up this morning, kicking it. If you're getting value from the stream, do me a solid. Hit the like button on YouTube. It goes a long way to helping others find the channel. Shout out and thanks to the stream sponsors, Barricade Cyber, Delete Me, and Antisyphon Training. Guys, Antisyphon Training, if you didn't know, They're absolutely disrupting the way traditional training in cybersecurity is done. They provide cutting-edge education to everyone, regardless of financial position. They allow you to practice practical skills, so actually learn what employers are wanting. You learn from industry pros, and you do it in a fun and inclusive way. Like, if you like the way that the community chat is going right now on the stream, then you will love Antisyphon. I try to vibe and like align with what Antisyphon does. Even the course next week, if you're taking the PBCC course next week with me, I'm trying to run it very much like an Antisyphon training. So super pumped out and looking forward to that. I know some of you students are in here right now. Oh, right here, this guy right here, Graham Helton. Did you see him? I spent time with Graham Helton, this guy right here last week. If you get a chance, I don't even know about the Kubernetes class that he's teaching, but he's really smart and really, really cool. I bet you that class is a banger. Go to antisyphontraining.com. Check it out. You can get some of their training for $0. Super epic. Guys, I want to tell you about the daily cyber threat briefs, Simply Cyber Community Challenge. Every single day we tag one person. Angel Martinez currently has the baton. Marine Martinez. Law enforcement officer Martinez. And now IT cyber. All about good times. Good morning, Angel. Thanks for carrying the baton. If you'd like to blow up your professional network, do me a solid. Say you'd like to take the community challenge. Angel Martinez will tag someone. Guys, just go on LinkedIn, share your story. Use the hashtag Simply Cyber Community Challenge. Yep, Becky Gaylord will be there next week. Becky, I made an assumption on your Discord handle and added you to the class, so let me know if I got that right. So, hey, if you want, tag it. Simply Cyber Community Challenge. I'm also going to run a poll at the end of the stream asking everybody if they want to continue to do the Simply Cyber Community Challenge. There's been a little kerfuffle in mod chat that maybe Community Challenge has run its course. So we're not trying to force anything here, so we'll see. All right, guys, every single day of the week has a special segment. Tuesdays, I share a little bit about me, and we see if we vibe. Guys, I want you to know, Tidbits Tuesday, Maddie Gabler wants the baton, so Angel, if you can tag Maddie. So check it out, guys, every single day of the week. Today is the first day of school. Kids are back at school. Getting up early. We do, my wife, Mrs. Auger, wonderful, artistic. She creates these like cards. Hold on, let's get the la 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 la's on. So, Mrs. Auger, she makes these cards like first day of school. She's been doing them every single first day of school, the kid's entire career. We did it this morning. It's just a nice thing. I would never have thought of that. I suck at stuff like that. Mrs. Auger's awesome at stuff like that. I don't know if you guys do that. The card, like, you know, Grayson's first day of school, Callan's first day of school. But it is a really nice memento. And shout out to Mrs. Auger for being freaking awesome and making those memories. And if you're doing it for your kids too, good on you. It's a really, really cool thing to get into. All right, let's get back to the news, y'all, and finish strong.
Global cybercrime treaty sparks controversy. Nearly 200 nations have approved the UN Convention Against Cybercrime, which aims to combat internet-related crimes, including hacking and online child exploitation. But the treaty is raising concerns about potential human rights violations, as it allows governments significant leeway in electronic surveillance and bypassing privacy safeguards. Now, critics, including civil rights groups and tech companies, argue the vague language could enable repressive regimes to abuse the treaty, while supporters like the Biden administration believe it strikes a necessary balance between law enforcement and human rights. The convention is expected to pass the UN General Assembly, which would become law after approval by 40 nations.
All right. Give me a second, because this is pretty huge. This is pretty huge. So basically 200 countries, the United Nations, which by the way, Russia is a member of, China is a member of, all the BRICS countries are members of, including NATO countries, right? They're saying that the internet finally, they're saying, okay, the internet is like a shared space. It's so stunning to me that it's like they figured it out now. But like space, like deep sea, no one really owns it. It's kind of a shared space. And they're talking about enabling what I think is, hold on one second. They're talking about the ability to provide, what do they call it? Oh my God, it's my brain is broken right now. Basically, it looks like the ability to like intercept communications. Here's my thing. They're talking about privacy safeguards, getting around those, and how oppressive regimes could abuse it. What I don't get yet, and again, I don't research these stories in advance, so this one's a little tricky for me. What I don't get is like if the UN says yes, like you can do these things, like that is not enabling. Like if China, like for example, wants to spy on their citizens, they're going to do it. Like they've already doing it. So like I don't know what this UN convention is actually saying. The idea is to combat cybercrime. Unfortunately, whether it's the UN or whether it's, your country or it's your state or it's your local, it's the way the house, your family works in your house. When you start entering or introducing like watcher controls, if you will, it's a slippery slope, right? Let me break this down to you. This is a tale as old as time, okay? Like all national security legislation, the Patriot Act, the ability to spy on things, right? It's like, oh, if you allow us to eavesdrop on your communications, we can make sure that all the bad people get arrested, which is fine. No one's going to argue, right? If there's some, degenerate creep, person who abuses people, human trafficking, massive drugs, fentanyl, like all of that stuff, yeah, round them up, get them out of here. Let's go, law enforcement. The problem is, it gets abused. There are so many examples of law enforcement, to pick on one, where it's like, yeah, I can use this technology to find a bad guy, but I can also use it to find the person who's dating my ex-wife. I can use it to find this person I met at a conference and I'm like unhealthily attracted to, and I'm going to get them. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it can be instantly abused for your own devices. And when you hear the phrase, absolute power corrupts absolutely, that's what's going on. Like, so yes, privacy groups are like worried that it could be violating of human rights, right? Not only individuals who are like creeping on other people, but like, let's play it forward. Let's say you're an authoritative regime and you're cracking down and you're taking out, an entire ethnic population in Northwest China, right? The Uyghur population. Maybe that's what you're doing. So you spy on everyone that's talking about that so you can crush the ability for people to organize and revolt, revolution, coup, all those things. This is the hallmark of authoritative regime in maintaining it. So yes, I'm happy for privacy groups. What I don't get is like what the UN's going to do. Like, okay, what a bunch of stiff suits are going to walk around and agree like, oh yes, let's do these things. Like, unless they're helping each other spy on their own, like, so like the United States is going to allow Russia to spy on US citizens or something like that, like to fight cybercrime. I don't know. I just know that, I'm happy for the privacy rights groups to get in here. Yeah, thank you. Like what Snowden uncovered. Exactly. It's always, dude, the road to hell is paved in gold, right? Not to get too, philosophical or anything like that, but like any technology that started out with good intentions, it always gets, abused, right? What's that phrase from Batman? Like, you either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain, right? So, I mean, for Christ's sake, sorry, now I'm getting mad. Okay, look at Pegasus software, okay? NSO Group's Pegasus. It's designed for law enforcement to literally drop into bad guys' iPhones, yet we see it in investigative reporters and activists' devices all over the place. Because money talks, right?
Straight cash, homie.
All right. I'm trying to figure out what the actually is happening with this, by the way. 5 years of discussion, disagreements. Contains tougher language on countries like Iran. Whatever. I don't get what's going on here. So the UN... Oh! All right, so check this out. All right, and then I'll move on to the next thing. Here's another thing. This is going to become a little bit of a hot take here. Okay? But one thing that you really should realize in 2024, okay, tinfoil hat, guys, I'm sorry. And you first timers here, occasionally I go off the reservation with my own opinion and I get a little tinfoil hat. I think it's bananas, okay, that the United Nations, 200 nations, the negotiations around this convention included Amazon and Microsoft and, private tech companies. Dude, in the year 2024, people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and companies like Meta, Tesla, Amazon, Bezos, right? They're just as powerful as countries at this point. It's crazy how powerful tech giants are. Elon has his own space program. Do you see what I'm saying? It's crazy. So anyways, they have power, real power. They're not elected officials. They're basically tech oligarchs. And they're being included in UN conventions. That just blows my mind. Oh, it blows my mind. When Russia invaded Ukraine, Elon, you can have internet now. And then when they took on, basically attacked Crimea again, I know they got Crimea a few years ago, but there was this thing in Crimea, and Elon's no internet for you. That level of power is insane. All right. Anyways, long story short, I hope this is maintained because surveillance states are scary. Okay, final thing I'll say about this. If you're young, right? If you're young, and this is no disrespect, this isn't an ageist thing. If you have not read 1984, Orwell's 1984, might be worth a sniff. Okay, V for Vendetta is also pretty good. 1984 is essentially the surveillance state pushed to 11. All right, Spinal Tap friends. 1984 is surveillance state pushed to 11. It's it's almost a dystopian, not almost, it's dystopian, but it is what could happen if we gave surveillance all the way to allow the government to protect us. All right, let's go.
Windows bug can instantly crash your system with no fix in sight.
Sounds like a feature.
The blue screen of death is back, and it's triggered by a bug in the common log file system across any recent Windows version, including Windows 10, 11, and Server 2022. Discovered by a Fortran researcher, the issue stems from improper validation in the input data of the CLFS driver, making it possible to crash systems effortlessly. Despite being reported to Microsoft in December of last year, the vulnerability remains unpatched, leaving systems vulnerable. Windows Defender is flagging the proof of concept exploit as malware, but until Microsoft releases a fix, there's little that can be done.
Well, that sucks. This is a log file driver thing. Basically, it comes in your Windows operating system by default. It's it literally is a feature of Microsoft. It's just easy to exploit. Let's read here. Run a binary. Call a function. That function causes the system to crash. Okay. It says simple to run, but like whatever the binary is, you need to run that. It's not like you run. Here's the thing. It's not like you run calculator and it crashes. It does sound easy to engage. Let's see. CVE 2024-6768 base log files. Oh, and it looks like it's a data validation issue at its root. So it gets pushed some data that it chokes on, basically. Dude, humans make mistakes. Unfortunately, this KE bug check EX, that's the function, the Windows internal function. So if you want to start getting into IDA and looking up, like function, Windows internal functions and playing with stuff like that, Windows debugging, all that crap, you could look for this and try to play with it. It says 6.8 out of 10. Again, when you look at a CVSS score, it's easy to exploit. It does blue screen your machine, which is an availability issue. But like it says, it doesn't affect the integrity or confidentiality of the data. So it just seems like a more annoying thing, honestly. No fix in sight. This is the part that's more concerning. It's been reported 8 months ago, so December 20th. I don't know why they can't fix it. It's a validation of some data being pushed to the function. Like doing input validation on parameters being pushed to functions or methods is a pretty standard process. Yeah, looks like Dark Reading's reaching out for an update. I don't know. It's kind of, to me, it's weird. It's weird that they don't have a fix yet for this, because input validation is not like, innovative or new. I'm going to NIST NVD. Okay, and if you didn't know, the CVSS score, you can see it on stream here, is based on a couple different factors. The attack vector, attack complexity. Okay, so you can see here the attack vector is local, so it can't be remotely executed. So you got to run something on the box. That makes sense. Got to run a binary. Again, if you send Carl a phishing email, apparently, if you name it documents.zip and make it an MSI installer, apparently that gets through. Basically, it's just a jerk thing, right? It blue screens your box. Like, shrug. They did say in the story that you could pair it, right? So you do some exploitation, data exfil or whatever, and then you blue screen the box, so it's forced it to reboot and clear out all the fileless malware. You could do that. Right. All right.
Ransomware gang goes for the gold, literally.
Uh-oh.
Australian gold mining company Evolution Mining reports a ransomware attack impacting their IT systems. Now, the mining operation is one of the largest gold producers, contributing $1.6 billion to the national economy. While the incident did affect their IT systems, the company says they do not expect it to impact mining operations. And as of this recording, no ransomware group has claimed responsibility for the attack.
Well, when it comes to Australia gold producer, they can make a little less gold, not having to worry about the gold medal for the for the Olympics breakdancing. All right. Easy target, right? Obviously. All right. Australian gold producer. All right. So guys, basically TLDR, this is manufacturing, right? They're mining, but essentially they're doing a physical process of manufacturing earth into gold. Ransomware loves themselves some manufacturing, right? Because it's easy. Like there's a very easy, like, I break your manufacturing process, you stop making money.
Straight cash, homie.
Doesn't get any easier than that. Let's see, August 8th. So they just got hit last week. That sucks. External cyber experts, standard playbook, dude. If you're gonna do any like cyber incident response and you're gonna get hit with ransomware, insurance company, they always have IR specialists that they've contracted with who are on like typically an approved list. Eric Taylor could probably speak more to this, but you can contact your own, but they'll bring their own, like the insurance company, since they're paying for the recovery, they'll want to make sure that they've vetted the IR process. So you're not bringing in like your cousin Eddie, who's like, does computers and then it's going to get paid, right? This is one of the largest gold producers in Australia. $1.6 billion. Wow. Okay. If I had to guess, this probably didn't stop them from continuing to like harvest information, harvest gold, right? It's a physical mine. So yeah, you could actually, okay. Thank you, Story. Ransomware attacked its IT systems, so like email, payrolls, maybe stuff like that. It didn't impact the ability on operations because there it's not like, I mean, probably OT stuff, but think about it. It's like conveyor belts, processing, backhoes, strip mining tools, right? Like that's not, ransomware is not attacking that. Yeah, mining operations should continue to operate uninterrupted. This is like very similar to like when Colonial Pipeline got hit by DarkSide. People were like flipping out and like going to the gas station and filling up bags with gas and stuff because they thought there was going to be a run on gas. The pipeline, the petroleum running down the pipeline on the eastern seaboard kept flowing. Nothing was impacted as far as like the ability to for the product to continue to be refined or made or produced or whatever. The reason manufacturing sucks is because if they bring down the operations and the IT piece of it and it's down long enough, then yes, there will be long-term impacts and there will be a bubble in the production quality. But for the most part, it sucks, but they'll be all right. Also, I find it interesting. I don't know if Australia has, there's only a few things in Australia, but it seems like every time an Australian company gets hit, it's, hold on 1 second. Every time an Australian company gets hit, it's like the biggest, right? It was the biggest telecom provider in Australia. It was the biggest medical provider in Australia. Now it's the biggest gold miner in Australia. It's always the biggest in Australia.
Millions on the line as AI teams advance in security challenge. 90 teams competed at DEF CON over the weekend in the Artificial Intelligence Cyber Challenge, hosted by the U.S. government's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, to develop autonomous tools that can find and fix vulnerabilities in open source software. 22 unique vulnerabilities were discovered in major open source programs like Linux kernel, with 15 automatically patched. The 7 finalists are now tasked with building out their AI systems before the final competition at the 2025 DEF CON, with nearly $30 million up for grabs in prize money.
That's pretty cool. So, I mean, dude, if I had to guess, Casually Joseph would gladly plug into the Matrix if vulnerability management could be partially handled by AI. Good on you, dude. There's a lot of use cases for AI. They said in the story, interestingly, that one of the team's AI actually discovered a new bug in the code and then fixed it. So open source software supply chain, it's a serious vulnerability or area of weakness, essentially, for any businesses, not just software companies, because basically, like, say, I'm a cyber education company, but I use software. I depend on the software. The software is written by the software companies. They get the bug. It rolls into my business. And then you get things like the Move It breach, right? Or you get Avanti, the breach that involved the Avanti VPNs last year and stuff like that. So there's all sorts of shenanigans that can happen because of that. So having AI kind of address at least some of the low-hanging fruit in open source software is awesome. Especially, like, think about Log4j for a second. Log4j back in the day, it was 3 developers that were like voluntarily maintaining the code repository. There's no expectations of quality or warrants of efficacy of not having bugs and stuff like that. It's like a project, like a voluntary community project. So having AI jump in there, I think is super cool. I think they're doing it in an interesting way where they had them compete this year. And now they're going to give them a year to get their crap together and move forward. I certainly hope that this bears fruit. If it does, I hope they don't wait until, a full year from now, right? To me, the sooner the better with something like this. I like it. All right. Whoops, misfire. All right, let's go.
Large companies aren't traditionally known for being the fastest to adopt new technology.
All right, hold on. All right, guys, check it out. Check it out now. We are at the top of the hour. If you were here just for the news, thank you so very much. Let me remind you that this Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be joined on Simply Cyber Firesides, which is like the Joe Rogan style 1 hour long form interviews I do every Thursday at 4:30. We're going to be joined by Jessica Hyde. She is founder of Hexordia, but also a unbelievable expert in digital forensics. She is legendary, super awesome at her job. And on top of that, she's awesome at sharing knowledge and community support. She definitely aligns with the Simply Cyber mission of support, inclusion, empowerment. She's just great. So I hope you come. We've had her on the show before. She just like face melting level of resources. So if you're into getting into digital forensics incident response, this is a must see interview. All right. All right, guys. I'm Jerry from Simply Cyber. We are going to hold on 1 second. Give me 1 second. We are going to pivot here. All right. I have a thing at 9:30, but it's 9:02 right now. So do me a favor. Sit back, relax, and let's jump over to jaw-jacking. 30-minute AMA. It's going to be good times. We're going to start off with DJ B-Sec and myself discussing that first story. I'm Jerry from Simply Cyber. Until next time, stay secure. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Jawjacking. If you're new here, really quick before we get into it, essentially, I'm your host, Jerry Guy. I'm cool, much cooler than that nerd. Oh my God, what an absolute zero. Dr. Gerald Auger, absolute zero. Doing the news, drinking coffee. My man. We're going to be doing AMAs, answering all your questions, discussing topics, having a good time. It's 30 minutes. It's super chill. Let me pause the music and bring in my man, DJ B-Sec. We're going to be discussing the first story. What's up, DJ B-Sec? How you doing?
I figured I'd throw the glasses on, too.
Yeah, you're looking good. Look at this guy. All right. So, hey, really quick to level set for everybody. The very first story was, let me bring this up on chat in case people joined us late or jumping ahead or whatever. So the very first story was that the Justice Department disrupted a North Korean laptop farm. Basically, some donkey in Tennessee was North Korean people would get IT jobs somehow, right? And then they would say that they are living in Tennessee, and the company would send the computer to Tennessee, and then this guy would just like set up the computer and allow North Korea to remote in. Now, I didn't read the whole story, so I don't know if it was to install malware and do espionage, or if it was literally to have North Koreans work and then send their money back to the homeland. Now, we're talking about ways to control this, and I mentioned on stream, like a good opportunity to threat hunt, because there's clearly an uptick in activity in this type of operation. We've seen multiple North Koreans get pinched. We've heard multiple stories of weird interviews going down and stuff like that. So to me, there's an uptick. This is a current thing. something to look for in your environment. BSEC, what are your thoughts on the story?
Number one, I agree with you. There is a massive uptick. So I think over the last 2 years or so, it's gone bananas. But well, of course, what we were saying in mod chat, we were going back and forth, and we were trying to understand how this actually worked, right? Because as a corporation or as a company, if you're sending a laptop to someone, number one, you're going to go through the interview process. And what I would suggest is don't just do a voice interview process. You need to get them on the phone. If you can, tell them you're going to fly them, go through a couple of different interviews. And if you have to, then say, okay, hey, we're going to fly you in if they're working remote or whatnot to come in for the final interview. That's going to save you in the long run, because if you actually do have an adversary from North Korea or China or something that's actually getting in, that you definitely don't want them in your environment. So that's step one. Step two is you're sending out equipment. From what it said in the story, I believe it said that they were sending equipment to these people that were getting hired. Now, if you're sending equipment to them, that means that equipment should be locked down. And it should be locked down in a sense of they shouldn't be installing anything. And I know, Jerry, you were saying, well, maybe they installed something and that was why you can threat hunt on there. But they shouldn't have the ability to install anything. And if it's a remote person, your IT group probably has some type of remote tool that they're using to get on. That remote tool itself could be locked down as well. So only your IT people can get into it. So I was having a hard time understanding how in the world these guys were able to take laptops or equipment, set it up, and then allow somebody from North Korea or China or wherever to remote into it. We talked about there's a possibility that maybe they set up a VPN on their home network or wherever this was at to get them in. And then once they're on that local network, then when they RDP into the machine or VP or BNC or whatever remote tool you're using, it's still going to show that it's a local machine because you're on a local you're on the local network. So you've pulled a local VPN address into that machine. So it's not necessarily going to show a local address. I mean, there are ways to go through it all, but to me, it's crazy. There are so many, and I think Eric threw it out. This is a GRC issue. There are so many things you can put in place to make sure that this doesn't happen.
Yeah, 100%. And BSEC, if you can juice your gain up a bit. This is a GRC thing. Like, shout out GRC. But I do want to say opportunity for GRC to partner with the SecOps people in order to manage this risk. I mean, here's the thing. I've worked at companies before that, like at a Fortune 500 company, yeah, you probably have enterprise grade IT and IT operations and a cyber team and stuff like that, and lockdown boxes and everything like that. But I mean, I've worked at companies before where it's like, here's your laptop, ship it out. I've worked at companies before where, like, I mean, especially during the pandemic at the peak, you get a new laptop from Dell very easily, but we're hiring people. So literally go to Best Buy and purchase a machine and like get cracking. Like here's your credentials to log into O365 and stuff like that. So I definitely know it is. As far as threat hunting, wading through logs, I know he's a big threat hunter. Would like your thoughts on this too, Wade, if you got any thoughts. One thing that like blows my mind is on the know before, and this is in the story, so I'm not, spilling any tea here. They shipped the threat actor, for lack of a better term, an Apple computer, and it says as quickly as it got delivered, they detected the insider using a Raspberry Pi to download malware, manipulate session history files, and execute unauthorized software. I don't even understand like how the Raspberry Pi gets involved. It's not like the Raspberry Pi is like a USB drive or something you attach to a computer. So I didn't even get that part of the story. But
it determines malicious insider was using a Raspberry Pi to download malware, manipulate session history, and execute. Yeah, how the hell did they get?
That doesn't make any sense, right? Doesn't that sound like misreporting?
Well, unless they actually sent them the machine. I don't know. I don't know how you're going to get a physical machine to start downloading stuff. No clue.
Yeah. So we've got some tips in here. CyberCycle says endpoint validation via VPN, NAC, two-factor auth. Red flag is shipping gear. Maybe. I see.
No,
I don't think
that's not a red flag, because that's just like you said, Jerry. In the way it used to be, let's take before pandemic and after pandemic. Before pandemic, people didn't ship stuff everywhere all the time because most people were getting hired, and the most people that were getting hired for the most part were local to the company in some way, shape, or form. Yep. Or if they weren't, they brought them in for a week of training and they picked up their equipment there and then they left with the equipment. When the pandemic hit, everything flipped to 180, right? It was number one, can we get machines? How do we get these people into machines? Do we have an MDM to set this stuff up? If we don't, can we get one in place? Just like you said, there were tons of companies that when the pandemic hit, it slapped them in the face and they had no way to do anything. So it was like, let's go to Best Buy. I could throw one out. Let's go to Circuit City. I don't think that's around anymore, but let's go to all these different places. Yeah. Go to Amazon and try and grab a machine. That became the crux of IT at one point. Was we don't even have the equipment, or it's going to take me 6 to 8 weeks to get equipment. So shipping equipment now is not a big deal. The big deal is, for me, when you're in an interview or when your HR group is in an interview and the person never wants to turn on a camera, never wants to be on camera to talk to somebody. They only will do a voice call, or if you bring somebody that you're going to bring somebody in and they always aren't able to make it to something or something along those lines, that's a red flag. A red flag isn't necessarily, oh, let's ship the equipment.
Yeah. Okay. So I agree, but I think if I'm thinking through like the ease of exploitation, I think the interview process, right? So like, let's say BSEC, right? He's a senior network engineer. Let's say, I don't know, you fall on hard times or whatever, right? And North Korea's like, listen, we'll give you $10,000 for every job you successfully win. Right. So then BSEC flies, like that's his job. He flies to job interviews. He does the job interviews. He says he kicks butt, and then he gets the job, and then he immediately takes the laptop and gives it to North Korea. Now, obviously, I don't know what the long-term play is here, because you know what I mean? Like at some point you're going to be in like meetings, right? You can't be like, oh, and by the way, like I've changed my entire tone, voice, and everything in every working meeting going forward. So it does seem a little sussy sus, but I think the technical controls are really more, you basically have to assume insider threat and then implement the controls around insider threat. That's why I thought threat hunting would work here, because they're installing.
If they're installing stuff, yes. But that's where I was getting at too. What are you going to threat hunt if you're sending a machine out that's 100% locked down? They don't have admin access to this stuff. They're not. Now, granted, there are ways to get around this, but if you're going to if they get around that, then you should already have alerts in there that something's happened. But if stuff's already locked down to the point to where they can't install stuff, they're not going to. At that point, then they're going to be. They should try to. They would be using whatever remote your sessions that your IT has on there to do IT things. Is what I was getting at.
Yeah,
they shouldn't be allowed to install that
problem.
Stuff. Yeah.
It's a hard problem, no doubt, right? Because basically, in this instance, not the one where they're installing malware, but where they're just working. I mean, the story says that North Korean IT workers made $6.8 million last year and funneled it back to North Korea. Again, this is like North Korea basically exploiting their civilians to work and send the money home, right?
And
they're coming from China, so you can't. The IP traffic's coming from China, so I guess they VPN to China and then go into a US based laptop or whatever. So looking at network telemetry out of the box, I mean,
you'd have to be able to really follow that trail.
Yeah.
And you're not. I don't know if there's any telemetry that's going to do that on the machine. Because like I said, if for instance they were in China and then they VPN'd into this person's home network, like they set up a VPN or something,
yeah,
then at that point you're on a local IP address that's remoting into the machine.
Exactly. When I said threat hunting, I wasn't thinking that there'd be some huge, massive red flag sitting in the middle of the lobby that you discover. This is a tough problem. Obviously law enforcement isn't going to disclose how they uncovered this operation. You'd have to think that it's like I almost think it had to be the money, right? There's no way this Tennessee guy is doing it for like free, right? Like it had to have been a financial incentive.
Well, and I would think that they would see, man, we have a whole bunch of North Korean IP addresses or a whole bunch of Chinese IP addresses. If this guy had a VPN set up that are, say he was on AT&T's network or whatever, and AT&T's like, man, we have a whole bunch of 30 or 40 IP addresses that are coming from China on a VPN into this network. And that's
whole network.
That could be a flag. Like, what's going on here?
And I think that's what it is. I do wonder, again, this is like tinfoil hat, Jerry, but I don't think I'm too far. I don't think it's too big a tinfoil hat. I think federal law enforcement is engaged with the national telecom providers for, hey, if you see something, say something.
Right. Well, and that could be legit traffic, but it could also just be one of those things where, man, this looks weird, and they pass it over, and then there's I don't remember how long they said it took, but there's an investigation for 6 months, and they're like, yeah, this traffic is not right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what I was going to say is also see where they came from, right? Fortune 500 companies, major television companies, car manufacturers, tech firm in Silicon Valley, aerospace manufacturing.
Yeah.
Luxury stores.
It quickly gets into like national security potential. Right. Even though they're just like making some side hustle money up in here, you could pivot quite quickly.
Yeah.
Looks like wading through logs, aka Wade Wells, will be joining us right now to weigh in on this. You see what I did there? What's up, Wade?
So very funny. So great.
Oh, yeah. First time you heard that one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what's up, dude? What's your take on this?
So as I was screaming in chat, there's several ways around this that you would never be able to tell, right? Like I have seen there's this personal home router that you can buy that you plug in at a network, and then you plug in at another network, and it tunnels for you and acts as if you're at a home VPN, right? Yeah. And you would never notice that. That would be like damn near impossible to figure out sometimes, unless their network hiccuped or you could see emails or chat logs, maybe something like that. The other big thing is just chat functionality. Teams, Zoom, all that stuff has stuff to take over control. If you have someone that is willing to log into a computer on a network and then say use whatever chat function that company normally doesn't use, and then give control over to that person, they pretty much have a tunnel in that you would never find. Right. Because I'm not going to be looking for Zoom traffic. I'm not going to be looking for webinar stuff like that. That is, I've seen both of those in the wild as well. And the Raspberry Pi thing, I didn't research this, but you could definitely map that over in a network, like plug that in a way where it looks like a shared drive. And then it's not an easy function just because Linux and stuff like that. I'm only going to be able to say this. I got to run away. So that would be something, but that is what I was thinking. Either USB, Ethernet, Bluetooth, that sort of situation, and push stuff over to the laptop.
Yeah, I was trying to think of how like if the Raspberry Pi, if we're talking about somebody in North Korea or whatever, if the Raspberry Pi is in North Korea versus in Tennessee where this was, how are they mapping it over? If they're on a VPN that's plugged into their machine, then yeah, they could, hell, if they were using TeamViewer or some remote, they can just copy stuff, right? Just straight over to it.
The other thing would be like a SOX proxy, right? Like if that was installed and using that Raspberry Pi as the jump point, but there's a couple ways. All right, I wanted to talk longer, but literally my baby just woke up, so now I gotta go.
No problem. Ladies and gentlemen, Wade Wells.
All right, see ya.
Cool. So Wade Wells, blue teamer, threat hunter, weighing in on this story. Any final thoughts on this North Korean thing?
It's very prevalent. Whether it's North Korea, I would say over the last 2 years, we've seen this really hit. We've seen, I think there was another story maybe a year and a half ago talking about this. So it's not going away. This is definitely something you need to bring forth to HR and put stuff in the onboarding process or in the interview process to try and weed these kind of things out.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, good point. I mean, when we talk about emailing end users and Carl and all these other things, it's typically, hey, don't fall for fishes or don't install dumb stuff. But every team does do interviews. Every team does do hiring. It's not like there is HR, but there's not like one central hiring group at your company. Everybody does it. So this is a pretty good opportunity to educate your end users, especially with like not everybody outside of IT or InfoSec knows KnowBe4, but like these are mainstream stories. You could probably find North Korea KnowBe4 story, this particular Tennessee North Korea story in like USA Today or Washington Post, like some of these more prevalent mainstream media sources. Grab those stories and use them as references in an email communication to your workforce about, hey, listen, guys, when you're interviewing people, best practices. Make sure, like, if they never have their camera on, that's an indicator, right? Like these type of things.
Yeah, and I think the story from a year or two ago was how they were doing it on LinkedIn. Like a lot of people are putting out, hey, I've got a job, and they were getting their jobs from LinkedIn is how North Korea was actually pulling this stuff down. So is that a huge red flag? No, but I would say if you're hiring somebody or you're doing an interview and they came from LinkedIn, I would like just give it a little second look.
Yeah,
do more verification. That's what I would say is HR needs to do a little bit more verification. I know with HR, basically everything runs to the ATS and okay, they passed it. Okay, let's shoot it on over. They need to do a little bit more verification, getting them on camera or something along those lines to verify that the person is who they say they are.
Good point. So two things. One, I think I may be misremembering this, but I think part of their shtick was too that like they kind of set up both sides of the process last year, right? So I think this is like way more complicated. But they would open a position that was really open somewhere else. They would find candidates, then they would apply to the position, and then they would have the candidate interview with the company, and they were basically like a man in the middle attack where the candidate know that they were, like basically interviewing. Really quickly, Casually Joseph does offer a pretty solid idea here. Hashtag the Youngs. This is a Gen Z solution, but it's pretty dope. I love canary tokens. Casually Joseph says basically lay a canary token on the box, and that way when they push the contents on the machine, the data on it, whatever, to North Korea, it'll pop with an IP address that's in China or in North Korea. Pretty good idea. I mean, you are making an assumption at that point that they are going to take the image and push it, or take the files and push it, whereas they may just be sitting on, like, logging into the box to do work. So basically, Joseph's suggesting canary tokens, which I do think is a cool idea. Never thought about putting canary tokens on to detect insider threats, but it is a good idea.
And we're thinking two different ways, right? With this, somebody's actually getting hired and just doing the job and getting paid for it to get money back to the home base, or somebody's getting hired to have that infiltration to find out what that company's doing and trying to get access to stuff. So there's two ways to think about this. Are they just doing it to get the money, to get a paycheck, to be able to, add to the community cash, so to say, or are they actually doing it to steal, IP?
It does bring up, like, as you're saying it does bring up another question. I've got an opinion, but this is more devil's advocate. Like, if the North Korean gets hired and they're crushing it, like,
are you going to get rid of them?
Like, are you, like, is it a problem? Like, but again, they're installing malware. They're doing bad stuff. There was like zero integrity in the actual hiring process of who you interviewed with versus who's doing the work. But just
think about the story though. They didn't get fired. Like, this guy got caught.
Yeah.
So they were crushing it and just knocking stuff out left and right. But the other thing is if they are in IT, are they IT, or is it somebody doing some type of development and they're building an application or something and they're building backdoors into the application? Now we got like a SolarWinds type of thing where this application gets pushed out and people are using it, but there's a deep dark backdoor that nobody knew about because it was a quote unquote legit developer in there that was building the application.
There you go. There's a lot to it. It is a good story. I'm glad you wanted to jump on. Hey, Nick Barker, Oregon's own. Thank you for all the gems this morning, Nick. Nick at 27 months. Good on you, Nick. Okay. Any questions in chat? We're certainly open to answering them. I'm like just looking at the other stories here really quickly. Yeah, this North Korean thing's out of control. Let's see. There was the Trump story. There's the higher ed data breach story. The UN one and the privacy groups in the 1984. I still don't understand. I got to go back and read about that. Like what's the United Nations doing here?
Yeah, I missed that one. I just heard you talking about the Orwellian effect because I was actually taking the kid to school. When that came.
Right on.
Why are we talking about Orwell?
I will tell you, if this is like a riff on the UN thing, but the United Nations, which again, BRICS, like China, Russia, Iran, like United States, they're all members of. They get together to define norms, like international norms. Yeah. So there's a norm, it's really well defined on what is an act of war, right? So Russia invading Ukraine, act of war. But in cyber, it's really muddle about what is considered an act of war versus acceptable espionage, right? Because espionage is acceptable because first world powers do it all the time. And there's a really great book by Scott Jasper called Russian Security Operations. But that book gets into, it's kind of a dry book, honestly, but it gets into how Russia has basically not like Russia will go to these UN things and to talk about how we should define norms for cyber war, but then they'll kind of like dance around and muddy all the waters and stuff like that and never really move anything forward. And it's basically asynchronous information warfare. You can see here's the book right here if you're interested in it. It's pretty good. Like I said, it's a bit dry, but it is pretty good. Russian cyber operations. And it really just gets into how Russia has managed to regularly attack countries all over the world and never have it rise to the amount of considering an act of war.
Well, and talking about this, the story about the campaign getting hacked, I did see it's not just the Trump campaign, that the Harris campaign is also, and FBI is looking at it. But, I mean, come on. This is two high-profile things that are going on in the world right now inside the U.S. Like you said, how do you not have somebody sitting in the background that's making sure that your Microsoft issued this report? So I'm assuming they're probably using O365 or something. How are you not doing that? How do you not have somebody in there that's got MFA and all this other stuff on there? So
yeah, I don't exactly, dude. It's like 8 years ago, this was a thing. You know what I mean? Like 8 years. I think we got MFA figured out. Really quickly, the Tyler rap battle did not happen at DEF CON. I spent a lot of time with Tyler Ramsby, but it was just so much good times and just, hanging and chilling that we didn't do that. It is the bottom of the hour. DJ BSEC and myself both have 9:30 a.m. or 8:30 where BSEC lives a meeting. So we are going to have to end the stream. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, tell a friend. And we'll be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern time to do the daily cyber threat brief. It will be Worldwide Wednesday, so don't sleep on that. We're going to show how inclusive and diverse the community is. I'm Jerry. He's DJ BSEC. Your chat. Until next time, y'all, stay secure.